I start to talk about rom-coms, you probably get an image that looks a bit like Taylor's shitty thumbnails in your head, and while you really aren't wrong, if I've learnt anything as an anime fan, it's never judge a book by its cover. Except if it's Taylor, he's pretty shit. With that in mind, today a review of my all-time favourite drama, The Pet Girl of Sakurasou. Let's go. As a setting, Sakura Hall represents the outcasts of the school system, not in terms of academic achievement, but in one way or another they do not fit into the vaster society of the school. Now, Sakura Hall residents are not stupid, they're just misunderstood, and I think this is what makes the later moments in the series really hit you like a pro boxer's finishing move. Everyone in Sakura Hall, hell, every character in the main cast, goes through a hardship, a result they must face, and despite the sheer amount of effort that they put into chasing their goals, the reality of life hits them just like most of us, right in the stomach. You are probably beginning to question what's the point of watching such a gloomy anime, but that's what's so great about Sakurasou. While the show is jam-packed full of tear-bait moments, ultimately the show's just as much about trying to find light in the darkness of these hardships, learning to rely on those around you, and never giving up. These themes are a core part of human maturity, and I think that's the overall way to sum up Sakurasou's evident message. It is very rare that a rom-com anime makes a comment on life to this extent, but Sakurasou presents it in a very real and raw manner that makes it utterly exceptional. While the show does have flaws, mostly in situational logic, many will argue that the fan service in this show is the biggest problem it creates for itself. But this aspect of the show dies out very quickly, and the comedy that is ever so frequent in the first half substitutes for the deeper messages that Sakurasou presents. I'd even argue that the fan service reflects the message. Tits and ass as well as dumb comedy does get shoved down your throat like anything, but as these characters which you genuinely form an attachment with go through their harsh experiences, not only do they mature, but in a way so does the show. I understand if you think that's over-analysis, and heck, you're probably right. That was most likely never an intentional feature, but its presence is enough to make it warrant mentioning. I could talk about the excellent and unique themes Sakurasou presents all day, but the whole reason Sakurasou is so great in the first place revolves around its amazingly diverse and yet strikingly similar characters, particularly the main three. They form a trio that I became so attached to, and I honestly couldn't even decide if a definitive romance would have been a good thing. You have Sorata, who thankfully doesn't follow too many cliches except for the fact that he comes off as a bit stupidly unaware of what's right in front of him, which is both a good and a bad thing. I see myself in Sorata in many ways, especially in how he deals with failure and how he matured in the show, and while like I said he can be a bit of a melon, his self-realization is one of the most powerful presented, and as a protagonist he is definitely not shoved to the side to act as an observer for the audience like most. Shiro is a character who is very special, both in a literal and design perspective. She is probably the most complex out of all the characters because of the way she is designed to adapt with the show, and while she wasn't particularly relatable, she got the strongest development and made it very, very hard for me to decide on who best girl of the series is. So that brings me to the last character completing the triangle, Nanami, and yes, Kevin, she is best girl. I felt incredibly emotionally attached to Nanami. Not only would I say her hardship is the hardest to come to terms with, and she is an A-class example of life not being fucking fair, but she works so well with the rest of the cast and showcases the most heightened emotions. The other characters are anything but bad, the two upperclassmen in particular being standout supporting roles as they effectively go through the same things as the main characters, really hitting home the idea that failure is a core principle of life, as despite their stage, they are still prone to it. I grew to absolutely adore Sakurasou's characters as I resonated with their experiences and understood their emotions, something that most anime will not do, because they just can't. An atmosphere that is both captivating and imaginative is something a select few dramas achieve, a show that comes to mind being Nagi no Asakura, but despite the fact that Sakurasou takes place within blatant reality, the use of art stylization and music makes it seem just as surreal to watch. Now don't get me wrong, the show is realistic, but it's so blissful to watch, again particularly closer to the end. The vivid colours help bring to life the fact that the show decided to portray emotions within the seasons, as well as generally making certain certain scenes burn into your head. Whilst the animation is not particularly fluid, it's not below standard, and when it needs to step it up a level, it goes out of its way to do so. Undoubtedly though, it's the music and animation working in unison which really left my mind completely blown because of its weight it carried in emotional scenes. Parts of Sakurasou were literally beautiful to watch. How it can use the art of silence to take you to what you think is the pinnacle, and then saying fuck that, grab your tissues, we've only just got started, is something that is needed to make a good drama show, and Sakurasou implements it perfectly. While the track choices could be seen as repetitive at parts, take your time to read the lyrics and you'll realise that the repetitive nature is clever if anything. いつもここにいてほしいくせに There are very few things I will tell you that you are doing yourself a disservice by not watching, Sakurasou being one of them. It is a show that will have you in a boat by the end of it due to its relatability and presents characters that you will undoubtedly grow to love. How could I not say anything other than it's a masterpiece within its genre? Taking all of that into consideration, it would feel wrong to say anything other than I wholeheartedly recommend you to check it out, awarding it with an A-star grade. Sakurasou is currently only licensed for physical distribution by Sentai Filmworks in the US, but thankfully for others it's also available on Crunchyroll, and my friends over at United Publications are also selling the import in the UK if you love owning things. As far as where to turn after you've poured your eyes out, I point you to Hanayamata, which much like Sakurasou takes your expectations and says fuck them, showcasing serious themes behind the cute girls doing cute things, whilst also sharing similar themes. Alternatively, you have Toradora if you're looking for the next best thing to turn to as far as drama and rom-coms are concerned. With that said, thank you for watching, and as cheesy as this is going to sound, enjoy life for what it is, even if you're a cunt. I've been Russ, and have a great night or day.